Hi everyone, welcome back to Microsoft Azure Developer Community's Tech Podcast series. Today we have Frank with us, and it's going to be an amazing podcast because today we will be rolling the whole podcast around the Microsoft Azure journey of Frank, and also we would be talking about that how actually he got started like with the Azure technology. So Frank is the Principal Software Consultant, and at the same time, he is a Microsoft MVP. So I welcome you, Frank, in the today's podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Let's have something more about you from yourself, like how everything is going on, and also how you are managing your like your corporate life with the Azure journey.
Okay, so yeah, it's quite interesting because what I do on a daily basis is mostly surrounded around the Microsoft Azure stack. So on a day-to-day basis, what I do is at our firm we build software using mostly .NET technology. So what happens is that we usually get clients who want to build stuff, and we help them from the ideation stage all the way to have a finished product. And most of the tools we use are .NET tools. So we use ASP.NET Core, we use Xamarin, and we always recommend them to host on the Azure cloud. So my work life is usually that way. And on the other side of things, as an MVP in my community, I usually work around, the developer ecosystem. So um, running boot camps, contributing to open source technology, and also mentoring people. So I have some engineers I do mentor on how to also, get into um, the Microsoft space, become an MVP or become an MCT. Yeah, so mostly that's what I do for my work and on the community side. But aside that, during my leisure time, I like playing video games and I like watching movies as well.
That's amazing to hear, sir. So,
Mhm.
like moving further with it, I guess audience would be very much excited to know that how you actually got started with Azure journey and how it felt like, because starting with a cloud and at the same time, I guess you started like back then, like 10 to 15 years ago. So that time the technology was totally different and everything was totally different. So, how was your experience when you get started with your Azure journey?
So initially, the journey started with first of all being a developer. I mean, I started building, desktop apps, back in the days. So there was a need to move from desktop. Desktop development used to be very popular back in the days, but there was a need to move from desktop now to web application development. So I studied web application development in ASP.NET. Now we have .NET Core, but this is the .NET framework. Then, initially we used to just host with IIS, and all that with other hosting providers. But I remember when Azure was becoming very popular and Microsoft started building a lot of tools around ASP.NET framework and Azure, especially building extensions into Visual Studio where you can easily deploy to Azure and all that. I started taking interest in it. And I mean, I loved Azure because as a .NET developer, there are a lot of tools. There's a lot of integration built inside the framework and deploying it into Azure and working with databases like MSSQL. I remember back in the days, it was difficult to host MSSQL on most of the clouds were supporting other databases, right? But when Microsoft Azure came, it was very easy to just deploy an MSSQL database and all that. So for me, Azure became like a home for me because everything I needed was there. And anytime I build an ASP.NET app, I'll just recommend that, hey, host it on Azure. Now on the so when I started, actually, um, there wasn't a certification around Azure yet, but it's now that Microsoft has is now putting all the certifications around Azure. So it's more of an interesting journey now, because you can just go to the Microsoft Learning Portal and you can just start with um, Azure Fundamentals, which is free. I mean, you can get that from Microsoft Training Days. So now there is more tools, there are more learning materials than way before. Before there weren't so much learning materials, but now there's a lot of contributions from the Microsoft Azure team and the open source contributions, and there's also consultants contributing, MVPs. So there's a lot of resources around Azure now than before. So the journey from starting way back to now, I see there's a lot of improvements. There are a lot of resources, and there's a lot of tools. Now, if you're a developer, there's Visual Studio Code, there's Azure Data Studio, and all that. So, for anybody who is joining now, this is the fun time to join. When there's everything available. Yeah.
That's actually pretty much amazing to hear your journey, and it was amazing to me as well. And I'm pretty much sure it's for the listeners as well at the same time. So, I guess whenever we say that a person is Microsoft MVP, so people think like it would have been so easy for you because you have been contributing to Microsoft Azure stuff. So, but I would be very happy to hear from you. Like, how was it for you, and how many contributions you have done, and was it easy for you to get the Microsoft MVP badge, or you have spent day and night working hard to get that?
Okay, so with the Microsoft MVP program, actually, there are so many ways you can become an MVP. Some you have mentioned. So you can contribute to open source code. Microsoft has a bunch of open source code out there on GitHub. You can be an active contributor to that, or you can contribute to your community. So one of the things I'm very passionate about is .NET development. So when I started out, I used to contribute a lot in my community by creating events, whereby people come and learn, how to build applications. And I mean, that's how I started. I was very much passionate about the .NET technology, because after learning how to develop the .NET technology, I just didn't want to end there. I wanted to see how I could give back to something that's very, something that's very cool, and something that actually had helped me build a career. So I started running communities. Um, so we have the Accra.net community, which is supposed to be a community that brings together .NET developers and .NET enthusiasts, and people who want to learn about .NET, to help them connect together. So community contribution is very key. You could also be a speaker. So this actually is also a contribution. So as an MVP, if I'm called to, speak about .NET, or speak about Azure, or wherever I find myself in, that's in my MVP category, I should be able to speak. I should be able to give out my time. Okay, so speaking events are also very good contributions to become an MVP. Anytime you have an opportunity to volunteer your time in whichever region you are, all those counts, to applying for an MVP. Because when you want to become an MVP, it's two ways: either you're nominated, or you can apply for yourself, right, on the MVP site. So when you go through any of these two channels, the next thing you need to do is you need to show proof of work for the past 6 months. So what have you done for the past 6 months that Microsoft needs to award you as an MVP? Because an MVP is an honorary award, so you need to prove that you deserve it. Now, the way you can prove that you deserve it is by some of these things. So, contributing community work, speaking events, contributing to open source code or repositories, um, product feedback, right? So if Microsoft released a product and you have good or bad feedback, whichever feedback it is, you can give feedback about the product, because the developer teams take feedback from us users, and that's how they're able to build good products. So if you are recognized as a good product contributor, that can also earn you an MVP. um, yeah, so these are some of the few that comes into my mind. So for really anybody who wants to become an MVP, all you need to do is, first of all, there are so many technologies, there are so many stacks. Find what you are very passionate about first. Then next thing you need to do is you need to now put in time to where your passion lies. So it could be blogging. I left that out. You can be a blogger as well. So you can create your own blog and just be putting a lot of articles, because all these resources come together to help the ecosystem. Because somebody will be working, they go online, they go and Google something, and they can go to your blog, and your blog can be a very good resource to help somebody, in their development career. So Microsoft recognizes that as well. Once you have a very good blog and you are blogging about the technology and you are sort of sharing your knowledge, and that also counts as a very good contribution. So if you want to be an MVP, I mean, these are the things you need to do, and it's also listed on the MVP website, so you can do that. So as an MVP, what I've done myself is I've nominated a couple of people who have also become MVPs. So what I do is I sometimes, when I stumble on people who I feel have a good body of work, I can nominate them. And when Microsoft assesses them and they also say that, okay, these guys qualify, they can also become MVPs as well.
That's actually was very much insightful, and I'm pretty much sure that will help a lot of people out there, because this question has been coming up so many times, and people are so much confused at how to get started with it. So you talked about contributions, and you also talked about the opportunities. So, like, how come you got to know about the opportunities that are moving around you? And also would be very happy if you can just put some light on the blogs part as well, because I guess writing is very essential thing to do so, and various people think that it's not going to work and it's not going to help them, and so they just left the writing thing. I guess if you could just put some light on both the things, it's going to be amazing.
Okay, so first of all, the way I got to know about all this stuff is, so as I said before, I started as a developer. I was very passionate about the technology, so it led me to um, be more curious. Like I was reading around it, then I got to find out that there is actually the Microsoft actually has an open source foundation, which is the .NET Foundation, which actually is supposed to promote the .NET technology. So I started by becoming a member. So I became a member of the .NET Foundation, and through that, I started meeting awesome people um, who were working on the .NET technology, and also I met other members who were in the foundation. So I followed them on Twitter, and I was getting a lot of information, from them. So then I realized that, okay, um, um, once you are passionate about the technology and you want to be a volunteer, right? The .NET Foundation was one of the places to go to. So I started volunteering a lot. I mean, that's by running all these programs. Um, so boot camps. I started with boot camps. Did a couple of boot camps in my community, and that led me to connect with other boot camps. I'm in Africa, so in West Africa. So as time went on, I was showcasing the work I was doing. So that's one good strategy. You need to showcase the work you do. because people have to see it. So how do you showcase it? You showcase it by tweeting a lot, putting them on LinkedIn, Facebook. Make use of all social channels that are available to you, because that's what creates the connections, right? Then you get a lot of people following you, and you get to follow a lot of people. Then through that, you get, you know, that also gives you a lot of insight into where actually you want to go to, because these are people that can guide you. So somebody can see that, oh, you organize a lot of community events. Some people will come and say, okay, how do I help you? Right? It's the same way you can also reach out to certain people, because they see what you are doing. They will also be willing to help. They might want to speak at your event, or they might want to help your event in one way or another. So I have been privileged to have events with people like Scott Hunter, Matt Torgerson, who is the I think who heads the C Sharp language, and Mariana Gaga, who is also works at Microsoft, and yeah, and the list goes on. So I think in the beginning you need to showcase the work you do, and once you showcase the work you do, especially on Twitter, follow the necessary people you need to follow. If it's a blog, once you blog, don't leave it there, share it on Twitter, right? And there are a lot of Microsoft handles there. There are so many of them. Make sure you follow them. Use the hashtags, because that's what's going to get you traction. Now, when you're applying for MVP, even your tweets count, because there's a section where you are filling the form. You can showcase your tweets and say, "Oh, I tweet about this," or "I push this out," or "I help promote this." That also counts. Those links also count to you being successful in getting into the MVP program. So for that, that's what I would say. Now, for somebody who blogs, there are two ways I'll talk about. The first one is creating your own blog, which can be time consuming for some people. If you don't want to create your own blog, you can just blog with platforms like the C Sharp Corner, which I like a lot, which is very popular in India. You can be a C Sharp Corner blogger. You can use Medium. There are a couple of them outside there. You can be a very active contributor to one of these platforms, or you can create your own blog if you want to. If you have enough time to manage it and update it and all that, you can create your own blog, or you can just use the existing platforms, just blog there, because they all have a lot of traction, right? And anytime you blog, just make sure that you share it. Don't just blog and leave it there. Blog and share it, because you need to have a lot of people coming to your blog to see what you've written, and that can also lead you to getting more followers and all that. So you need to be building yourself, as in building your image. Social media helps a lot. Share your blogs, share your GitHub project. So for me, I build GitHub project. So anytime I build a GitHub project and I open source it, I go and write about it, usually on C Sharp Corner, and that gives me traction. Then people go check it out, and it helps them in their project, and they start downloading the packages from NuGet. So those are some of the strategies you can use.
That was so amazing, to be honest, because these are the things that has been looking by various people out there, and they were still confused at how to get started with these things. So yeah, thanks a lot for sharing those insights, especially on the blogs part, and also especially for mentioning the like your recommended sites, because obviously people say that you can just get started with the blogging, but when you actually share your personal recommendation, it feels so good to the other person as well, because they feel connected, and they know that okay, the person who is right now MVP has contributed on these particular sites, and if I also contribute on these, I can also receive that particular output. So yeah, that was really very much insightful. And so also you are a principal software consultant. So in that case, how your work looks like, and adding on to it, how you actually manage everything, and would be very happy to know your work stuff.
Okay, so what I do on a day-to-day basis is I work with customers and ensure that they have their requirements delivered. So I work between customers and development teams and project managers. I mean, to make sure the customer gets what they want. I mostly serve as the technical lead sometimes in terms of solution architecture, where the product should go, what the direction should be. So we build bespoke projects. So we have customers coming saying, I want to build this or I want to automate that. And how do I go about it? So we need to come together. I need to put my teams together, look at what the requirement is. And at the end of the day, make sure that the engineering team comes up with, I mean, what is very close to what or exactly what the customer wants. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure it works. So I usually communicate between clients, project managers, and development teams on a daily basis, and where we mostly build web applications, mobile applications, and we do automation as well. So using Power Automate, we automate business processes. So if there are any manual processes that we need to automate, we come in, we look at what the problem is, and then we do a proof of concept on how we can solve it by putting some automation and some web applications or mobile applications if needed together, to sort of make a whole process seamless and more efficient. So on a daily basis, that's what I do. So I work closely with a handful of customers that we have, and we make sure that every day we put smile on their faces.
I really love the your how your day to day work looks like, and also it's truly amazing. Especially the last line when you mentioned putting smile on everyone's faces. So that's something that I really love the most, because obviously you are ultimately it's when you consult, when you are into consultancy, you are resolving everyone's problems and they are happy after that. So it's an amazing job, to be honest. That's a very satisfactory job, if I
Yeah.
say in a very precise manner. Yeah, like ultimately when you go to sleep, you have that satisfaction in your mind that yes, I helped that many people today, and today I'm happy that I did a really great work. So yeah, thanks a lot for that. And concluding this podcast, I would be very happy if you could just share some of your experience in your Azure journey. Anything, any your favorite personal experience that you have that you will never ever forget.
Okay, so one of my very cool experiences in this whole journey was, I mean, being able to organize events with people like Matt Torgerson and Scott Hunter and Maria as well. I mean, these are some of the big faces that, I mean, I've always looked up to, in terms of software development. I've seen them speak so many times. I've watched most of their videos, their tutorials, and all that. But it never actually crossed my mind that I would actually one day be exchanging emails with them and actually have to talk to them and even engage with them on an informal basis. So I could actually even send them an email, text, or send them a DM anytime I want to. So that really was one of the very cool experiences I had to meet these people. And also, I'm still looking at to meet more people. Hopefully, um, Scott Hanselman, and I have other people that I've also interacted with um, a couple of people because I'm on the .NET Foundation as well. So that's actually one of the most exciting things as well. Being able to be there on the .NET Foundation board was one of the things that actually helped me a lot. So it's something that never crossed my mind actually. So I started as a member, and now I'm on the board. So that's also another very cool achievement. I mean, the MVP program has brought because, I mean, having the award and being encouraged to do more open source work, I mean, just leads you to other opportunities, even in business as well. I mean, it gives me the exposure I need, to go to certain places I need to go to, and to, get the kind of business I want as well. So it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, all these years out, and I mean, I'll say I still keep doing the hard work to make sure that I maintain the award, because it can be taken from you if you're not active. So that's one thing you need to know. So you always need to stay fresh, keep active all the time.
To be honest, I love this. Reason being, your like favorite experience was so much amazing to hear, because obviously for me as well, when I meet like great people who are contributing in a very amazing way, and I have been following them on internet, but when I get an opportunity to meet them in person, that particular experience is really very amazing, and that's something marvelous that happens. And again,
I
yeah.
think I think there's one more. I had an invitation to visit one West African country for an event. That was also a very nice experience as well. They actually paid for my flight, paid for my accommodation, and I had to just go talk and deliver, share my knowledge. So yeah, that was also a very cool experience.
Yeah, that's true. Like when everything is just done by the other company, like, or the conference, it feels so good. Like you are invited as a speaker, and you just have to come and speak. Your talk has that particular potential and have that importance, that they just want you to come here and speak, and they'll like keep a check on all the accommodations and the traveling expenses. It feels so good. That's a really true thing that you just shared with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks a lot for joining in today with us. I'm pretty much sure this podcast have been a very insightful session for all the listeners who are listening and watching at the same time. And yeah, we'll be coming up with other podcasts super soon. Thanks a lot, and stay tuned with us.